Hi guys, it's Lynn with Soft Squares. Today I'm going to do some block of the month squares, and I have block 1 and block 2, from Bliss Quilt Along Tree and Company. This is for the fat quarter shop. So these are the two that I've gotten so far, 1 and 2, and I'm going to actually do those. I wanted to let you know the differences that I'll be doing to the pattern. This recommends that you use the collection Stitched by Fig Tree and Company, which I actually have, and but all I have is this charm square, and I want to use something different because I don't like to make something everyone else is making, and so I want it to be different colors. But also this is all that I have, and it has a lot of different colors, and I've been really wanting to use some of the fabric collections I've been getting from Tuesday Morning, because there's only 5 colors in those, and these blocks are 4 to 5 at a time, and I think they'll be it'll look really nice. So this is what I'm going to be using, is this line, and it is called, can't read it on that one, Carima, C-A-R-I-M-A, might be cut off. I believe that's what it is. So I'm going to open this so you can see what these 5 fabrics are. So what I have is a jelly roll, a fat quarter bundle, 1 charm pack, which has 40 in it, and then 1 layer cake, which only has 20 in it, because the Tuesday Morning layer cakes are, for whatever reason, they're 10s or 20 instead of 40. So I think that that's enough fabric to get me through the blocks, because I'm not sure how much you need of all of this. All right, so over here, look at what I've got here. So one of my first fabrics is this one. I think these will be really pretty. They have a lot of contrast to them, which will work with these small blocks. And really, this is the only one that I think has a big print on it. Is the this one is what I was talking about. All right, here's this one. But I like, again, because they go together, but there's big enough differences between the colors of fabric that I will get the contrast that I want. And then here's the last one. There's this one. So this is the block. It's really tiny, hard to see. But on this one, on block 1, it needs 4 fabrics. And on block 2, it asks for 5. I have 5 here. Now, in case I need a white, I actually have several large remnants of white, and this is a white on white with a little tiny polka dot in it. Let's see if I can make it so you can see that little polka dot. So I have about 1 yard of this, well, maybe more than that. These were actually came out of a scrap bag that I had ordered from the Fat Quarter Shop. And it's a little wrinkled because she just kind of shoves it in the bag and then you deal with it, and hey, I'm okay with that. But look how much there was. That one, plus that, plus that. Now this is with the fabric. So there's enough to make a 4th, 5th color, 6th color, sorry, if I need it. In fact, I'm kind of thinking I will use this as my base on everything, because it's nice to have a solid. And I don't see much difference between this and this. Hopefully you can see that. They're both, anyway, I like, this is a bit big, but I think I'll be able to use it, and I think I will need to use it, but I am going to use this as my white, and then incorporate these as needed. So hopefully you can see these 2 little blocks. Obviously, I'm not making them exactly the same colors that they are using, but it's also just for contrast. So hopefully you can see the blocks a little better. So I'm gonna first start out with block 1. Block 1 is asking for 3-inch squares and 6.5-inch squares. So that means I can't use this. This is 2.5 inches wide. That's just not gonna work. This is a charm pack, which is 5 inches, and that could work. I also can get out of the 10-inch squares. In fact, that and the layer cake is where the 6.5-inch squares are gonna have to come from. This block measures, let's see if it tells me the finished size, 10.5 by 10.5. Awesome. So I'm going to be using one of my special rulers. I'm going to use this one, which is, all right, I'm going to be using these rulers today. This is a 10.5 by 10.5. It's a square ruler by Creative Notions. That's the final block size. This is the 6.5 square block, which is the center block size. I'm going to be using the 2.5-inch block lock for my diagonal half square triangles. And last thing is I'm going to be using these little numbers here, which are by Purple Hobbies quilt block markers. All right, so this is my jelly roll, and the reason I'm opening it is because block 2 needs some 2.5-inch pieces. Look at all the mess. So there's quite a bit of 2.5 inch, 3.5, 2 7/8. So not all those will work, but what I need to do is go through and match up these. And I'm going to kind of give myself a master list of what each of the fabrics are, just to, I don't know, keep it kind of consistent to what they're doing. So the reds will be this one. So right now I'm actually going to make a little teeny sample. That will be this one. The white, we're going to use this. The yellow fabric, well actually let's go with those easy ones. There's a green one. And then there's a teal. So there's that and that. And then I have these two that are like a white background. And maybe, don't have to have yellow, but let's see. So this one is another white background with a print. Okay, so I'm gonna use this one as another secondary white background. And oh, the yellow, I haven't addressed the yellow. I think I might do the green as the yellow on this one. No, I'll do this one. So we'll just play with it and we'll just see. So I'm gonna make little notes. All right, so this will go away as we're working. And it'll also create a bigger mess as we're working. So there's a direction on this block. So I want to make sure as I'm sewing them together, the direction stays the same. So it looks like it needs to be going up and down when I put this on from upper right. Hopefully that made sense. Something little like that could make your project just not work out. Okay, so I have pressed all of the blocks open, pressed into the dark side, and now we need to square this up. And the easiest way to do that is you can use a ruler like this, which is 2.5 inches wide, where you put it down, and you still have to maneuver a little bit. Big thing is you want to make sure that your corners stay in the corner. And my favorite way to do that is to use this little block tool, because it has a little groove back here which goes into the, oops, backwards, the seam, and it locks it. So this part right here is what it's holding on to, and look at that. No matter what I do, my seam is on the corner, so makes it a lot easier for squaring up. And I think my round board will make this so much easier. So there's that. I'm going to do it to all of them. And then it says to take 5 and sew them like this. Make 2 rows of 5, like this. There we go. And 2 rows of 3. And you sew them together. And I'll show you what happens when I get to that point. Okay guys, I've just pressed the block. We're done. So as I was talking about earlier, you need 5 sets of these and 2 sets of 5 and 2 sets of 3. And you have to pay attention to the direction, because I ended up unpicking these ones because they were going the wrong way. But everything looks great. I love how this is working out. The only thing I'm just now noticing that I wish I had done differently is on the pattern itself. They have the green at the upper, which I've got here, but then all my blocks, little blocks, are opposite. So this is more than likely how it's going to go in the block or in the quilt, which just puts the green at the bottom instead of at the top, because when we put it all together, I'm assuming that these little directions mean something. So, but that's it. That is our block 1. On to block 2. Yep. Okay, next we're going to take our F on our D squares, and there's only 1 of each of these, but we're going to cut them on the diagonal and make 4. For some reason, that's a little... Oh yeah, they're not the same size. I'm not going to stack them like that. After we have done that, we are going to make little pairs like this and sew them together. Make sure you sew on the same side on all of them. And what I want is just so it looks like the block. I'm going to sew it this way, so I'm sewing here so that when I open it, I have the lighter on the right, which what we're doing is we're making this little part right here lighter on the right, and then we're going to add the red on the other side of the square. But first we're going to make this half. And my green square or teal square ended up a slightly bit bigger when I cut it out. Just know that if you do that, the lighter color in my case is the right size, and we'll just trim off the excess later. So we have those 4. And then we're going to sew those. However, while I'm at the machine, I'm going to do the next step too. So this, we're supposed to have 2 squares. Well, I didn't have 2 squares or enough to make 2 squares, but I know I'm going to be cutting it in half. So I am going to work with these 2 parts and this one. And this says to cut it this way. I just want to be consistent with my pattern, and I'm visual, so it's easier for me to see what they've done. And they've done top left. Again, it doesn't matter as long as it works for you. But the biggest thing with this is directional. So there's that. Now these are a little oversized. I am not worried because my angle is still the same. And then when I'm done, I'm gonna trim this block down. But what's gonna happen is after these are sewn together and they look like this, they are gonna get sewn to this block and then all pressed open. And then squared up. I'm gonna have some squaring up to do. Let's go sew that. These have all been sewn together in their little pairs and pressed open. Now I'm going to put the red on the opposite side. I have pressed these open, and what I've done is I have pressed, you should press to the dark side, okay? In my case, this is the dark. The reason for that is so you don't see the fabric underneath. In some cases you won't see it anyway, but in this case, that's what I did. And then when I put the other side on, I pressed it to the red regardless of what was actually darker, because there's so much bulk right here. If it was folded back this way, it gives you even more bulk. Okay, so now that I've done that, I'm going to square these up, and I'm going to use my favorite little Block Lock 2.5 inch guy. And again, there's a groove right here, which is the way I like it. That groove gets hooked on this seam right here. So again, see how it doesn't go anywhere? Get that in there. Let's square these up. I have a lot more squaring up to do because of what I started out with. So what happened is I've already made this block once, and I'm having to make it again for this video because something happened to my footage. I'm sure it's user error. But I wanted to try to make use of the scraps that I had, and things were just a little not ideal. Okay, so there's those. There, this is how this is going to get laid out, with this one in the middle. And then our E blocks go around it. So I'm going to sew these together, this together, and come up with 3 rows. And then sew these 3 rows together, so we'll have a little 9-patch block. All right, so I've sewn my 3 strips together. Nope, that's wrong. There, I've sewn them together. And when you put them like that, which is what we're gonna do next, see how it makes the pinwheel, and reds are in the same spot, so are the teals. I want to show you something I did on the back though. Remember how I said the best thing is to press to the dark side so you don't see the seams? In this case, I pressed to the white block on this one because it's the path of least resistance. There's a little tiny little bump right there, and to fold this back this way, it will make that really thick. So I just had it lay the best way that will make it lay flat, which happened to be opposite way this way. So what I'm getting at is my blocks are still going to line up and alternate because I went towards the large block that didn't have as many seams in it. And then we're going to put them together and nest the seams, and you're going to see that they will offset just how they're supposed to. And we'll make it so I get nice points and comes together. But I got to make sure I've got them in the right order first. Let's go sew these together. Here is our block. Now I'm going to square it up. This is 6.5 inches square, and I have this really cool square ruler from Creative Notions. That is the right size. I'm going to do this on my spinning mat, turning mat. Now I've pressed everything away from the middle if possible. Whatever works to make it lay flat, or as flat as you can. So I have pressed all of my little bee blocks in half. You want the print on the outside. I'm having a lighting issue. The print on the outside so that when you open it up to lay it on your block, you're sewing in the ditch. You're going to sew it one corner on all 8 of your rectangles. You're going to press it open, make sure it looks good. Cut your excess off, so cut it down to about 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch, and then you can square it up if you want. I think it's gonna be very, very minor if it's off. However, this is where you would square it up. Then afterwards, you're gonna go through, now that you've got one corner on, go through with the other corner, and you're gonna open it up, stitch in the fold, come back, cut that, let's do it right, you're going to be cutting the 1/4 inch off when it's open. Cut the 1/4 inch off, press it back, make sure it still looks good, and then you're going to end up with all of your blocks looking like this. And then after that, you're going to have another block that looks just like it, but you're going to mirror image it. So we're going to pretend that these are all sewn together. So if these are sewn on, they've been cut and pressed, and you only have the half. So then what you're going to do is you're going to have 2 blocks that look like this. Then you're going to sew them together right here, facing each other. And what you're doing is you're going to get it to look like this. You're going to have 4 sets because there's 2 green blocks in each set. Let's go make those. So all of my corners have been put on. They have been pressed back and the 1/4 inch has been cut off. And now I'm going to sew the other corner on. Now let's square these up. I don't think this is going to need it, but so we did that first corner, put the second one on, cut it off, pressed it back. So these have all been pressed back. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take and make 4 pairs of these. That doesn't look quite right, does it? Let's see if I need to square that one up, because that one probably does. So this should be 3.5. There's my half. So I'm going to be putting that into the seam. And this is 2.5. And because this particular fabric is off of a jelly roll, I've got pinked edges, and each manufacturer is a little bit different. So in this case, I was able to trim off of that to make it square because I had pinked edges. Not too worried about these in general, unless they're really crooked like that, because they're gonna work just fine. Just good to double check. Now that one doesn't look quite right, does it? Let's see. This tool right here happens to be exactly 2.5 inches wide. So even though I'm using the mat, I'm also mostly eyeballing on my ruler and using the width of that. So I'm not really looking underneath. I just want to see what it takes to get this block squared up and covered as much as possible by the area that I need. There. And the half is right here. So this actually is a little small. That will get sucked up into the seam. There we go. And there we go. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make little buddies. We need 4 pairs of this. Gonna match them up like this. And the goal is, now there's a lot of bulk right here, but the goal is to be just like 1 thread to the right of where the point is. And so you're going to not necessarily want to do a 1/4 inch. You're going to want to be as even as you can. And this one, because it's not quite square, I'm going to put this one on top so I can keep track of it. Actually, the best thing to do, take a pin, put it in the center, do the same with this one. I'm going to do that. It's a little trick that I need to do more often. It's a lot easier to come at it when you are coming from the front. You put this one on top because it's a little screwy. See what I got going on there? Not pretty. I'm actually going to sacrifice my point for the sake of stability of my block. Go down a little bit. All right, so now going over to the machine, knowing that the points are lined up, and sew each of those. Now we have these, and because we're not done with this block. So now what we're going to do is basically assemble our block, and each side is going to have these. This is the block where I had to sacrifice my point. Kind of sad, but it did pretty good. All right, so there's that one. Now we have these white squares still, and you want to make sure that they're the right side up, which I'm going to have to look closer at. But there is our block. So I'm going to sew these onto here and this onto here. Then I'll press them open and then sew them all together and then square it up. All right, I have done that. Last thing to do is I've pressed it open. Now I'm going to use my 10.5 square ruler from Creative Notions, and I don't know why, but these little corner blocks ended up like a 1/2 inch too big when I was cutting them out, which is not a problem. This is where you square it up. And so you're getting to see lots of ways to deal with little imperfections when you watch me sew. And I should be on my revolving mat. It'd be a lot easier right now. There we go. Okay, now we are done. There it is. Okay, there's our two blocks. Block 1, actually it's block 1 and block 2 for the Bliss Quilt Along by Fig Tree and Company for the Fat Quarter Shop. Stick around, we're going to keep doing these. We're also going to work on some other blocks, so keep watching. Thank you everybody. Have a great day. Please like and subscribe, share and comment.